Hello, dear aspirants. Have you ever really stopped to think about how active our state assembly actually are? How often do they meet? And when they do genuinely discuss the important issues in detail before passing a law? Well, the annual review of State Law 2024, which was published by the PRS Legislative Research, gave us some very eye-opening answers. Let's start with the basics. First, how many days do our state assemblies meet? In 2024, on average, the state legislative assemblies meet for just 20 days in whole years. Yes, only just 20 days. To put this in perspective, back in 2017, the average was 28 days. And during the pandemic year of 2020, it dropped even further to 16 days. Now, you might be wondering, are not there any rule about how many days these assemblies must meet? Well, some states set their own targets, but here is the shocking part. From 2017 to 2024, not a single state met its own minimum sitting target even once. This clearly shows a lack of commitment to the core work of the legislator. Now, what is the difference between the state legislative assemblies? If you look on this graph, we can say that the picture is quite uneven. For example, you can take Odisha. It met for 42 days, and Kerala was not far behind with the 38 days. These are well above the national average. But then, some very states like Uttar Pradesh, Madhya Pradesh, they sat for just 16 days. This huge gap tells us that while some states are making an effort, others are seriously falling behind on their duties. Now, let's talk about the leadership inside the assemblies. According to Article 178 of the Indian Constitution, every state assembly must have a deputy speaker. This was not just a formality, it is a constitutional post to ensure the smooth functioning, especially when the speaker is unavailable. But here is the worrying fact. As of 2024, 8 state assemblies in India, they don't have a deputy speaker. And Jharkhand, for shortly, has been without one for over 20 years. Even our Lok Sabha has not had a deputy speaker since 2019. Such gap in leadership which caused the confusion and slow down our legislative work. Now, let's look at how the laws are being passed. If you look on here, you can see that in 2024, the state passed on average 70 bills each. Sound goods, right? But wait. Over half of these bills were passed on very same day they were introduced. Which means without any detailed debate or discussion. Here, the most of the assembly session lasts about 5 hours per day and the quality of debate is declining. This kind of rushed lawmaking which defeat the very purpose of the deliberative democracy, where laws should be thoughtfully discussed and amended if needed and carefully passed. Now, what kind of laws are we talking about? About 50% of the laws passed were related to education and finance and local governance. The area they affect the citizen daily lives indirectly. Some bills, for example, if you look on 2024, for example, Uttarakhand, they become the first state in India to pass a uniform civil code. Second, the West Bengal introduced the Abharjita Act, which was strict penalty for rape. Third, we can say Madhya Pradesh, they passed a law to regulate the private school fees, aiming to control the skyrocketing educational cost. And even Maharashtra, they granted 10% reservation to Marathas in education and the government jobs. But here is the real concern. What happened when the assemblies they don't function well? Let's break it down for you. The one I will say the real issue come the weakening of our democracy. Means the laws get passed hurriedly, sometimes on the same day they were introduced. For example, in 2021, nearly 44% of the bill were passed this way, leaving no chance for the public opinion or expert advice. Second, decline in accountability. Means assemblies are meant to keep the government in check through question hour, a debate and motions. But with the fewer sitting, there is less time for these important tools. This means less scrutiny of the government, which is bad for transparency and the good governance. Third, poor quality of the law. If you look on many bills, they don't get referred to important committees like Public Account Committee, which were crucial for the detailed examination. Without this, the laws often have gaps, contradictions, or even we can say that which violate our fundamental rights. This led to the legal challenge and the delay in implementations. Fourth, delay in governors as such. Even after a bill passed in the assembly, it needs the governor's approval to become the law. But in the many states, if you look on the recent time, we can say that this approval is delayed for months without any explanation. This slow down our governance, which create confusion in our country. And the fifth point I will say ordinance Raj. Some states overuse the ordinance for the temporary laws issued when the assemblies are not in the session. To bypass the fifth point, that is called the ordinance Raj, the some state overuse the ordinance temporary laws issued when the assemblies are not in the session to bypass the legislative process. For example, the Kerala issued 144 ordinance in 2021 alone. This undermined our democracy by centralizing the power in the executive. So here, what we can do to fix this problem? Here are some of the important solutions recommended by some experts. The first point I will say, fix a minimum sitting days, which means the National Commission to review the working of the Constitution, which recommended the assemblies with fewer than 70 members met at least 50 days a year, and larger assembly they must meet for 90 days. To make this mandatory, this commission recommended to amend Article 174 of the Constitution, and they said that it will ensure the regular and sufficient sittings. Second, strengthen the committee system, which means we need more and the better standing and a select committee. Means we need a better standing and a select committee, including experts and the stakeholders. This will improve the law quality and the gaps in the policy making, and which will speed up the implementation of the law. Third, digitalization and the modernization with the e-Vidhan application, which means we have a national e-Vidhan application. Is a digital platform to streamline the legislative work. For example, is Nagaland. Nagaland is the first state is to fully adopt the e-Vidhan application, showing a way forward in line streaming session can boost the transparency, which help the citizen to see how the laws are made. The next point we can say the regular review of the law, which means the laws must evolve with the changing times. For instance, the IT Act of 2020 was not 2020, the IT Act of 2000 was updated to the IT Act of 2000 was updated to address the new cyber crimes. The state need to review the law periodically to keep them relevant and effective. The next point, the RTI, transparency and the local language, which means the State Assembly website should be regularly updated with the bills, debate and other information, not just in English but in the local language too. This make the democracy more accessible and which encourage the public to participate in our democracy progress. So dear aspirants, as you prepare to become a future administrator and the leaders, it is important to understand not only the laws but the system that make this law. A strong, active and the transparent legislator is the foundation of the vibrant democracy, because that is where the real democracy begins. In those halls where our laws are debated, shaped and decided. And thank you all for listening carefully. I wish you all very best of your journey in your preparation.